We are so happy to be on a warm couch in New York City, where it currently is 8 degrees.
And that window's closed in the back.
I know. The window's closed. There's no wind in here.
That's not a window. That's just a picture.
I thought it was a window.
We're real. Anyway, welcome. It doesn't seem like a Wednesday, but it is. It's Wednesday, January 22nd, and this is Fox and Friends. Transparency back in the White House. President Trump already taking questions over and over and over, and whatever people ask him, he gives them an answer.
Listen to me for a second. Stop interrupting. We won this election in a landslide because the American public is tired of people like you that are just one-sided.
And that is 100% true, so we will listen to you. Plus, billionaires praising Trump at the White House while announcing a $500 billion massive infrastructure investment in America. It can't come quick enough. We're going to tell you how AI is going to power the economy and the future.
And a Fox weather alert, a deep freeze in the South has tens of thousands of people in Texas and Florida and Georgia without power.
Yeah, we're keeping an eye on the rear storm as it makes its way off the East Coast. A packed hour of Fox and Friends starts right now.
Now to a Fox News alert. This is a live look at snow-covered Atlanta. Right now in Georgia, 40,000 people are without power after a deadly, once-in-a-generation winter storm.
It brought heavy snow and sleet to several southern states, including Louisiana. You got to see these shots of New Orleans. Some areas getting a record 5 to 12 inches of snowfall, and the South is still under extreme cold and freeze warnings.
Although the worst of the storm is over, it is still causing travel headaches and major disruptions at airports, with over 1,200 flights canceled and hundreds of delays.
That's right. A lot of towns don't have snow plows. A total of over 85,000 across the South are without power on this Wednesday morning. Look at that right there. About 7 inches of snow in a place where that could be one of those locations they don't have snow plows.
That's
Hayes,
Florida. That's in Florida.
Yeah,
Wow.
they don't have snow plows.
Let's check in with our senior meteorologist, Janice Dean, for our Fox weather forecast. Hey, Janice.
Did you see the pictures on social media?
Yeah.
I mean, people are excited about this, but the problem is it's going to be days before we get some help. So people are asked to hunker inside. The folks without power, I'm really concerned with because we've got temperatures well below freezing. This is the wind chill, by the way. So feels like 0 in New York, feels like 18 in New Orleans, 20 in Houston. All of these Gulf cities received snow, and the snow is going to remain in place for days. Some people are waiting for it to melt, and that's the problem. If we see more power outages and people are urged to not get on the roadways, we're not going to have flights in these areas. It is really, the next couple of days are going to be really interesting in terms of how the infrastructure withstands this and how local officials deal with it. But here's the live radar. So you see that snowstorm now moving across coastal Georgia in towards the Carolinas. But to see this amount of snow across the Gulf, never seen it in my lifetime. Obviously, many people along the Gulf have never seen it in their lifetime. And there's the live radar. So we're almost done with it. But look at the storm totals. A foot of snow south of New Orleans. We don't even have like 5 inches here in New York City. This is so impressive, so unprecedented. And, you know, the snowfall totals, we're at the #1 spot for how much snow we've received ever in some of these areas. In Alabama, close to a foot of snow. Florida Panhandle as well, over 8 inches of snow. In Pensacola, all-time snowiest day ever, matches the previous 81 years compared. So you add all the snowfall totals in the last 81 years, you've surpassed that. Travel delays, of course, it's going to, you know, impact all sorts of travel along the Gulf and the Southeast, and the temperatures remain very frigid, not only today, but Friday, even into the weekend. Then things start to ramp up a little bit. Also, quickly want to make mention, we have a high weather fire danger for Southern California, a couple of new fires in and around the San Diego area. So that's something we're going to have to cover. FoxWeather.com has been on this story, the historic snow, and also the potential for wildfire spreading today. Back to you.
Janice, I saw something yesterday, and it's brand new. The state of Florida put out a winter storm watch advisory about weather along the Gulf. They referred to the Gulf as the Gulf of America. which, you know, Donald Trump said he wanted people to start doing it. State of Florida, first to do it.
It's amazing. Well, first snowstorm as well, so that's impressive.
No kidding. Who would ever put storm of the century, essentially, of a generation with Florida?
Here we go.
No one.
Crazy.
Or Texas.
And the first ever blizzard warning for the Lake Charles area.
Crazy.
Ever.
Yeah, that's right.
Unbelievable. Well,
Thanks,
we're
Ray.
taking a lot
Yep.
of pictures.
Meanwhile, how about this story that took place yesterday? Caught most everybody by surprise. When we had the press secretary make her debut on our show, she says, look for a major announcement around 4 o'clock Eastern time about AI. At which time, we know that in the AI community, they felt really as though the Biden administration put major constraints on them, really clamping down. And we're going to basically decide who is going to be the one company that's going to have the American AI success or failure while they took on China. Well, it was impossible to do it. They felt as though the Biden administration didn't know anything really about AI and its potential. So they put in an executive order to contain it. Yesterday, Donald Trump revoked the 2023 executive order signed by Joe Biden that sought to reduce the risk of AI that poses to consumers. And man, are they out of the woods now? They're in the clear and building a major power center for it.
So here's the plan. OpenAI, SoftBank, and Oracle plan to launch Stargate. It's an AI infrastructure project. They're expected to invest $500 billion in investment to create 100,000 American jobs, many in my home state of Texas. First 1 million square foot data center will now be under construction in Texas. And I just got to say, why do we ever have to have this, you know, adversarial relationship between the AI and business community?
Lack of trust.
You know, it's like, why can't you work with the people? And that's what we saw yesterday. I don't know their political leanings or whatever. I really don't care about it. But I care about the country being number one, being innovative, investing in jobs. And they were able to do that in a transparent way with the President of the United States.
Trump rescinded the executive order that Joe Biden put on this industry, which means more regulations. He wanted more regulations. And so Trump said, no, we're taking this away. Sam Altman was asked about the safety of this, and he said, we do have to put some rails on it, but the benefits of this tremendously outweigh the downsides. How does this affect you at home? Well, it's going to personalize medicine, meaning like your doctor and you can have a conversation with AI and come up with the best plan and strategy. And Larry Ellison said the result will be vaccines that prevent cancer. How great is that?
That's going to change everything.
Yes.
So they have committed, and we talked about this a couple of weeks ago, about how SoftBank was going to be investing $100 billion. So far, that group of the three people you saw right there have committed up to $100 billion. But over the next 4 years, it could be $500 billion. And what's interesting about this is I was listening to the radio this morning, getting ready for the big show, and they were talking about how Wall Street is very optimistic about, you know, this next year under Donald Trump, because among other things, AI is going to just make every American company that uses it so much more efficient. So if you missed it yesterday, it happened at 4 o'clock. We got the preview yesterday by Caroline, as Brian said. Here's Donald Trump right there in the Roosevelt Room, and he's talking to these guys who are going to try to change America and make the world better through artificial intelligence.
We would immediately start deploying $100 billion with a goal of making $500 billion within next 4 years, within your term, right? Because of your success. So we are very, very excited to do this.
I don't have too much to add, but I did want to say I'm thrilled we get to do this in the United States of America. I think this will be the most important project of this era. And as Masa said, for AGI to get built here, to create hundreds of thousands of jobs, to create a new industry centered here, we wouldn't be able to do this without you, Mr. President.
So imagine early cancer detection, the development of a cancer vaccine for your particular cancer aimed at you, and have that vaccine available in 48 hours. This is the promise of AI and the promise of the future.
You want to have the innovation at home, you need the power to do it. We don't have the power capacity. We keep hearing how outdated our grid is. So this is going to have the private sector combining to build this together, rivals coming together because they want the power to be able to innovate, and we don't know where this leads. Yeah, they keep telling us AI is scary, and it is. But I found it fascinating. There was a man up there describing the future of disease, how they're going to be able to solve cancer. Right. And then when they open it up to the press, all the questions are about the January 6th and just some nebulous things. And thinking to myself, these people just show up with one thing in mind. They don't go to a press conference wanting to understand what the news
it's like,
is.
did they even absorb the content? You got innovators talking about that they were going to be able to detect the cancer in the blood before, you know, there was an aneurysm or a tumor or anything. None of the questions revolved around that. They went after the president. He's been kind enough to do a press conference. You had a president on hiatus for years, did not answer questions, and all of a sudden, they have found their conscience, and now they want to ask tough questions.
They also said we would never again have a COVID-19 pandemic because a few patients would get it, and AI would recognize that and put out warnings and prevent it instead of waiting so long till everyone has it. He also said, Charles Payne said that China just put out their AI product 2 weeks ago. So we don't want them to beat us.
Listen, my doctor who's watching right now, Dr. Ken, uses AI all the time for different things and to research things, and I'm glad he does because it's just it's another set of eyes. But to the point about the press corps being there in the Roosevelt room with him, it was wide-ranging. Obviously, it was about infrastructure and this data center that's currently being built by Oracle down in Texas. But think about if you're a reporter at the White House, and for the last 4 years, they've frozen you out. Nobody's going to answer my questions. Suddenly, you've got a guy who will answer every single question. He might think some of them are stupid, but he's going to answer them. And the thing about it is, and they're talking to him about stuff that he's doing. He ran on all this stuff. He said, on day one, I'm going to do it. And he did it. So they asked him a lot about things like that. If you missed it, it was here on the channel. And here are some of the highlights and lowlights.
Mr. President, is it also true in your conversations with Republicans today that you asked them to consider recess appointments for cabinet officials?
I think, yeah, if it's needed. I don't think it's going to be needed.
Are you open to Elon buying TikTok?
I would be if he wanted to buy it, yeah.
J.D. Vance, he said, this is a week ago, he said, if you committed violence on January 6th, obviously you should not be pardoned. Why is your vice president wrong?
Well, only for one reason. They've served years in jail. They should not have served. Excuse me. Listen to me for a second. Stop interrupting. We won this election in a landslide because the American public is tired of people like you that are just one-sided.
Do you think that the war should be frozen currently along
the war should have never started.
Do you intend to continue selling products that benefit yourself personally while you're president?
Well, I don't know if it benefited. I don't know where it is. Where is it today?
Several $1 billion, it seems like, in the last several days.
Several billion? That's peanuts for these guys.
Were security concerns at all a factor when deciding to move your inauguration indoors?
No, not at all. No, not at all. It was just cold.
Do you have TikTok on your phone?
No, but I think I might put it there. I think I'll get it right now.
There's a lot to go over. You can't just stay on the one note. There's 25 different venues now. There's 25 significant things taking place every single day. And it's amazing they just show up and they just talk about those pardons when not one question about how do you view Joe Biden's pardons, preemptive pardons, first time in history for his family. You turned that down. What do you say to him who said that it's something that's unethical?
You know what I thought about, too, when you're watching this? When we got home yesterday, I went straight to bed, threw down my bags, and I had to go to bed because we were getting 2-3 hours of sleep each night.
I made it to 7 p.m.
Did you? Well,
That's when I fell asleep.
A lot of us had. I was on Sean's show several times, so I was staying up so late, and I thought he stayed up longer than I did, and he woke up before I did probably, or the same time we did to do the morning show, and he had to speak. He had all the balls. He had the parties. He had all these press conferences. And he just keeps on going. I don't know how he does it.
I just don't understand on day one, why the hostility? He's there. You don't have to badger him to answer questions. Just pose the question. Leave all the fluff in anger. And why are you interrupting him like that? I thought that was so rude. Who was that, Peter Alexander for NBC, who had no questions about the mental fitness of the president? Said he didn't see. You're in the White House press corps. You see the president every day shuffling around in bed by 4 p.m., and you had no questions from him or the cabinet about the 25th Amendment, and then you have so much anger on day one? Let it ride a little bit.
Yeah,
Also,
but they're lucky that they've got a chief executive who's actually answering their questions. You know, Donald Trump is Donald Trump's best messenger. We have talked about that in the past, but, you know, he is a genius when it comes to marketing. He's marketing what he's doing. He said, look at all the stuff I did on day one. KJP, not a good spokesperson for the then president of the United States. There is a You know, we have seen shock and awe over the last 36 hours or so since he became president of the United States. The lead story right now in the Wall Street Journal is fascinating. It talks about how America's CEOs have launched war rooms and hotlines to cope with the, this blitz of orders to figure out how is it going to affect America's taxes for corporations, immigration and trade policies and stuff like that. The interesting thing is one company set up a hotline so that if there has been a workplace raid at your place, how to handle that. And so it's like, okay, we knew he was going to do all this stuff, and now America's corporations and whatnot and leaders, as we saw yesterday at the White House, are figuring out, how do I fit into this new Trump America?
Well, they need to understand if there's a workplace raid at their spot, why are they hiring the people? It's illegal in this country to do that.
People have looked the other way for years.
100%. So they brought it on themselves. The president campaigned on this. They should have never been hiring them. They should have been hiring American workers. They tried to usurp the system and not pay a fair wage to the American people. And now the roosters are coming to roost. So they should just be prepared. I'm going to ask Tom Homan about that, too, when he's on the program.
To a Fox News alert now, 4 people hurt in a stabbing spree in Israel by a Moroccan national who had a U.S. green card.
What's that about? Trey Yingst is standing by live with details on this terror attack. He's in Israel. Trey, good afternoon.
Yeah, hey guys, good morning. Overnight, 4 Israelis were wounded during a stabbing attack on a busy street in Tel Aviv. The attacker approached a wine bar before he started the stabbing. He was then chased by bystanders and killed. We're learning more about the man's identity. He is Kadi Abdel Aziz, a U.S. green card holder from Morocco. He came to Israel 3 days ago and was briefly detained for questioning at the airport in Tel Aviv. He was living in the United States before then. This is the second stabbing attack in this city in 3 days, and it comes amid a shaky ceasefire, along with the news that Israel's chief of staff, Herzi Halevi, is resigning over failures that led to the October 7th attack. He submitted his resignation yesterday, and it will go into effect on March 6th. Israel's defense minister, Israel Katz, thanked him for his service and said he'll look for a replacement in the days ahead. Now, today, we do know Israeli forces are still operating in the West Bank city of Jenin. They're going after Hamas and Islamic Jihad cells there. But on a briefing earlier today, we learned more information. This raid may last for a number of days and certainly could affect the ongoing ceasefire that is supposed to lead to the release of more hostages this weekend. Guys?
So, Trey, the problem is there's no one there to distribute the aid except Hamas. That's troublesome for the Israelis, right? Because it looks like Hamas is giving out the aid, and that fortifies maybe the public opinion that they're still in charge.
Yeah, absolutely. These images coming out of Gaza are not good for the Israelis. You see Hamas gunmen on top of aid trucks that are driving into the Strip as part of this ceasefire agreement, and it raises real questions about what we've been told by Israeli officials, that Hamas is destroyed, that they're not able to govern inside Gaza. They have control of the aid, and at this point in the conflict, that's the most important thing for Palestinian civilians there. And so as we look forward, that is why you're hearing so much pessimism about the possibility of phase 2 of this agreement actually being implemented. And you even heard President Trump himself saying he's not confident this ceasefire is going to hold.
All right. Thanks so much, Trey Yingst. A very fluid situation as usual.
Yes, it is. All right, let's hand it over to Carly. She has some headlines. Hey, Carly.
Good morning to you guys. We have some more news to get to here, starting with this tragic story. The Border Patrol agent shot and killed in northern Vermont on Monday has been identified. Officials say David Chris Mayland was gunned down during a traffic stop not far from the U.S.-Canadian border. The FBI saying one suspect identified as a German national in the U.S. on a current visa was shot and killed at the scene. The other suspect, whose identity has not yet been released, was hurt and is now being treated at a hospital. Malin was an U.S. Air Force veteran. He was just 44 years old. May God rest his soul. On Capitol Hill, the House is expected to vote on the Lake and Riley Act as soon as today. The bill that would mandate the detention of illegal immigrants charged with crimes passed the Senate on Monday, with 12 Democrats joining Republicans. Republicans have been pushing for this since 22-year-old Georgia nursing student Laken Riley was murdered last year by an illegal from Venezuela. The law could make it to President Trump's desk by the end of the week, which would lead to his first legislative win. Also today in Washington, Republicans are ramping up efforts to confirm the rest of Trump's cabinet nominees. In just hours, Russell Vogt, the president's pick to lead OMB, will appear before the Senate Budget Committee. And a confirmation hearing is now set for Trump's pick to lead the FBI, Kash Patel. That'll happen next Wednesday. That's the same day of the scheduled committee vote on Pam Bondi, Trump's pick for Attorney General. And New York is the latest state to consider a school cell phone ban. Governor Kathy Hochul announcing a statewide proposal during yesterday's state budget address. 8 states, including California, Ohio, and Florida, currently have policies banning or restricting the use of smartphones at schools, and now a total of 9 are considering this ban. The idea has gained national attention as a method of improving the concentration and mental health of students, but some parents say it's important to be able to keep in touch with their kids in case of an emergency. Those are your headlines, guys. Interesting stuff there. Bipartisan in terms of the states that are considering this.
There's ways to get in touch with your kids during school. I'm pretty sure they had it down in the 70s and 80s.
We all did it, yeah.
Absolutely.
But you could use a flip phone.
I like
or
that.
a dumb phone.
Yes, a dumb phone.
Yeah.
That's what we
true.
gave our kids. We didn't give them
Bingo.
smartphones because
Predictive text.
That's
they
the
had
way to get around it.
Right. If all they had to
Probably
do
numbers
was
or
call to get a ride or something went haywire, just flip it open.
Yeah.
It's the social media that's the problem.
That's
Right.
the,
No more payphones anymore,
No
though.
internet on it and that, and let them be able to text and call. I don't think there's anything
And all
wrong
the
with
parents
that.
need to be on the same page, because if my daughter has the flip phone and
Yeah.
all of her best friends have the smartphone,
peer pressure.
Yeah, right. So if all the parents can talk and say, let's all do flip phones, that makes it a little easier.
How do the Amish do it? I mean, that's some disciplined parenting, right? I mean, you're talking about no electricity
an
and you get a wagon. Right? I mean, we're just talking about being accepted.
All right, back to our top story. Trump announcing a $500 billion investment into AI. We're going to break it down next.
President Donald J. Trump. Today, we have an...
President Trump announcing a $500 billion investment to build artificial intelligence infrastructure in the U.S. Listen to this.
Together, these world-leading technology giants are announcing the formation of Stargate, a new American company that will invest $500 billion at least in AI infrastructure in the United States and very, very quickly, moving very rapidly, creating over 100,000 American jobs almost immediately.
Well, here to break it all down for us here at The Wall is co-host of the Big Money Show on Fox Business, Brian Brimberg. Hey, Brian.
Hey, good morning. Good to see you.
Good morning. So these 3 guys, OpenAI, SoftBank, and Oracle, they're launching Stargate AI infrastructure project. These are the top in the tech industry.
They are. They have the knowledge. That's really important because that's who you want taking the lead. You've got the guy who understands AI maybe better than anybody. You got the guy who knows how to finance it. This is the banker. And you got the guy who knows how to build the engine for the car to get the thing moving. So if you want to get AI accelerating, these are the 3 folks you want to have involved with it.
All right, and it's in the first plant's going to be in Texas, up to $500 billion in investments, which is going to help our economy, and estimated to create 100,000 jobs.
Look, I mean, they're talking about doing this first in Texas, but around the country. So you're going to need a lot of people to build, to run these places. $500 billion in investment. Can we just stop for a second? $500 billion. We talk about a lot of money in AI, but this is a huge acceleration. And it's more than just those 3 guys. You've got NVIDIA, you've got ARM Holdings, you've got Microsoft. Everybody who wants to be in this game is going to be in this game called Stargate.
And we have to be in this game.
And we have to, because it's not just for the U.S. I mean, it's a global play right now. And I can tell you, China is putting a lot of money into their AI development as well. They've got big companies, so you can't be complacent about this. You want your A-team on the field. That's what Trump's trying to do here.
Okay, first 1 million square foot data center in Texas, now under construction. And Larry Ellison said it's the largest computer ever built, which will enable AI. So we've never seen anything like this.
Look, to do AI, you've got to have a huge engine, as we talked about. That's what this investment is. You need a lot of power for that, Ainsley, because these things suck up all sorts of energy. They're doing it in Texas. That's not a surprise. It's a power center for the United States, and it's a place with lower regulations. So you don't have to go through the environmental regulations, all the bureaucracy, the red tape. You go to Texas, you get it done. Other states, I think, are going to get the message and probably make a similar pitch like Texas.
Brian, how does it work? Is it because Larry Ellison is saying that they will come up with vaccines through AI to prevent cancer? Is it AI reads all the information around the world about this, puts it together and comes up with a plan?
Well, it's like, you know, corn mazes in the fall. It's like navigating a corn maze on the ground where we are now, trying to look around every corner, versus a drone that goes above and sees where all the pathways are. That's what AI can do, because it can take in so much data and make connections that no one individual mind or even a computer right now can do.
Right, and we need to keep up with China. China's 2 weeks ahead of us already.
Could be. Yep, that's the point.
All right, Donald Trump repealed Biden's AI oversight. So Biden put more regulations on AI. Trump walks into office and says, forget this.
That's why all the guys at the other end of the wall said we couldn't do this without you, because Biden had an approach where every stage of development, look, check in with the government, get our approval, make sure we're okay with it. And Trump is saying, no, let's put the guys who understand this in charge, let them drive. You know, the government can get in the way where it needs to, but let's not do too much of that, because that's not what China's doing right now. And if they get out ahead, they set the standard, and then we're playing from behind. So Trump wants to play from the front of the pack, not the back of the pack. That's why he's got these guys.
Donald Trump is saying those three guys know more about AI than this guy.
Put the best knowledge in charge. I can tell you it wasn't Joe Biden and Kamala Harris and whoever they had in government.
Great job. Thank you so much, Brian. All right, and starting Monday, the Big Money Show will expand for 2 hours. That means you're very successful. They're giving you more time.
Big Money Show getting bigger.
That's right, from noon to 2 on Fox Business.
Thanks, Ainsley.
Thank you. All right, Trump's team is already getting down to business, but it's not without Democrat resistance. 22 attorneys general are coming after a part of his immigration plan, and we're going to tell you why.
Some sports headlines. Major League Baseball announcing its Hall of Fame class for this year. Outfielder Ichiro Suzuki and pitcher CC Sabathia and Billy Wagner each getting the nod. The class is headlined by Seattle Mariners legend Suzuki, who became the first Japanese player ever chosen for the Hall, falling just 1 vote shy of a unanimous selection. The trio will be formally inducted into the Hall in Cooperstown this summer. And parade details announced for the Ohio State Buckeyes after defeating Notre Dame in the College Football National Championship on Monday. The celebration will be held in Columbus, Ohio this Sunday, followed by a victory rally at the team stadium. And fortunately for Buckeye fans, early weather forecasts for the area show it's supposed to warm up at least a little bit by the weekend. And did you see this? Oh boy, Philadelphia's mayor is going viral for this spelling flub while cheering on the Eagles over the weekend.
Let me hear you all say, E-L-G-S-E-S, Eagles! Let's go!
Yeah, Mayor Sherelle Parker poking fun of her mistake yesterday.
We don't promise perfection. I'm so happy that I never have, especially after I couldn't spell Eagles right.
The Democrat still has some time to work on her chant before the Birds take on the Washington Commanders in Philly this Sunday for the NFC Championship. That game is going to be on Fox. Those are your headlines. Steve, over to you.
Thank you very much, Carly.
You're welcome.
Meanwhile, listen to this. 22 attorneys general from Democratic states filed 2 lawsuits to stop President Trump's executive order ending birthright citizenship here in the U.S. of A.
Here's the rule in the 14th Amendment. Everyone born here is a citizen, period, full stop. The idea that a president would seek to undermine the Constitution with an executive order is an assault on the basic idea that we live under the rule of law.
The plain language of the Constitution is clear, and this order is plainly unconstitutional.
Well, hold your horses. Let's talk to constitutional law attorney and former federal prosecutor Katie Cherkosky. She joins us right now. Katie, good morning to you.
Good morning.
Okay, so let's start at the very beginning. 14th Amendment, ratified after the Civil War. It had to do with people who were enslaved. What does it say?
Well, essentially, the 14th Amendment says that anyone born or naturalized in the United States and who is subject to the jurisdiction thereof is a citizen. Right. And interestingly, the Supreme Court has never specifically ruled on whether the children of illegal or unlawful residents in the United States are automatically entitled to citizenship. Now, that's how the government has interpreted that for many years. But the one Supreme Court case that everybody relies upon over 120 years ago actually dealt with the child of lawful permanent residence, which Trump's order still allows for birthright citizenship.
So the Constitution says people born here, but over the years, you know, it's been, okay, a baby was born here because the mother or the parents came into the country to have the baby, and that would essentially establish citizenship for the whole family. And then we've heard stories about how, okay, if there's one kid born there, then they can bring in their whole family. I think that is at the core of what he's trying to stop.
Well, I think that's exactly right. I think at the time of the 14th Amendment being ratified, obviously that was in light of ensuring that descendants of slaves were entitled to citizenship. And there wasn't this idea of this mass immigration coming over here automatically being entitled to citizenship. But to be clear, birthright citizenship still exists in this country, as it always has. However, the limitations on the status of the parents, if not at least one of them is not a lawful permanent resident or a citizen, then under this order, they do not automatically get citizenship. Does not mean that they're not able to get that eventually, but that's what this order suggests, is that the 14th Amendment does not automatically entitle all those people to that. The
whole family. So this is going to wind up before the Supreme Court. I'll bet you $1 at the end they'll say anybody born here, they still have, unless they change the Constitution, which is doubtful, they are a citizen, but the family, probably not. It's interesting. I'm sure you're paying attention to what is happening in Arizona. You know, now deportation raids are going to start where they pick up people who have committed felonies and broken the law and violent crime and stuff like that. The governor and the attorney general, not on the same page. However, the Republican legislature in Arizona has been, and they've passed what is referred to as, they're considering the Arizona ICE Act. And what that would do is, we've got a graphic, it would require sheriff's departments and Arizona Department of Corrections to enter into deals and cooperate with ICE. It also would require law enforcement to comply with ICE detainers, would detain and direct additional funding to local law enforcement. That's the kind of help the feds actually need.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, obviously, at this point, we have this unprecedented immigration crisis. There's going to have to be a hierarchy of essentially targeting people who are here unlawfully, who have already broken the laws. And so I think that's vital for the cooperation from these states. Absolutely.
You know, it's interesting, and we were talking a little bit about this about 20 minutes ago, Katie. Wall Street Journal's got a great piece. It's the lead story right now on their opening page, and it talks about how CEOs are trying to figure out, after this blizzard of executive orders, how they need to react as companies and go forward. For instance, CEOs have started their own war rooms to look at how these different tax policies and tariff policies would impact them. But also, there is one company that has a 24-hour hotline if, for instance, somebody, a client or one of their businesses is involved in a workplace raid. It's smart that corporations are finally getting on board, saying, okay, if this is the way it's going to be, how do we operate legally within the confines of these new executive orders?
Well, I think that the message has been sent and received that there is going to be enforcement. There's going to be law and order here after 4 years of essential chaos. And so certainly President Trump has been in office for a couple of days now, and he has hit the ground running. There has been so many changes, which he has promised, and he has followed through on, and he's taking action significantly every day in that direction.
See, now you just hit on something that's so important. These are things that he promised. You know, if somebody has not been watching, didn't watch him during the campaign, and they said, oh, Joe Biden's going to win, then, oh, Kamala Harris is going to win, and they weren't paying attention. These are things he's been talking about for a very long time, and he said, on day one, I'm going to do it. And on day one, he did a lot.
Absolutely. I mean, they say talk is cheap, but he's taken action there, and it really goes to show that this is going to be a new era, and I think that's what a lot of people were hoping for, and so this is motivating.
Okay, so he promised it. Exit question. The Democrats are going to sue him on everything they can.
Absolutely, and there's going to be challenges, and as with the birthright citizenship, very unique, unprecedented order. But again, SCOTUS has never officially weighed in on that, so people can determine what they want because of the practice, but there's certainly open legal questions there that need to be looked at.
Well, you know what? If Chief Justice John Roberts is watching right now, give us a call. 888-TEL-FOX. Tell us what's going to happen. Katie, he won't. He doesn't get up for another 15 minutes. Katie, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
All right. Meanwhile, quarter before the top of the hour, Donald Trump's new $500 billion investment into AI infrastructure from the private sector, doing more than just boosting the tech sector. What it means for health care, coming up next.
All right, after President Trump announced a $500 billion investment into America's AI infrastructure, the tech titans together behind the funding say AI will have a major role in advancing healthcare.
I believe that as this technology progresses, we will see diseases get cured at an unprecedented rate.
One of the most exciting things we're working on, again, using the tools that Sam and Masa are providing, is a cancer vaccine. Once we gene sequence that cancer tumor, you can then vaccinate the person.
So we went from an AI conversation, so within that, a great medical conversation. Joining us now to talk about that, moving the ball forward, Fox News senior medical analyst, Dr. Mark Siegel. Dr. Siegel, I was fascinated to see a non-doctor, Larry Ellison, talk about this. Did it sound valid to you? Are we heading that direction? Are we in that direction?
He's totally on target with where we are. We've entered a world of personalized medicine, precision medicine, years ago, but we didn't have the tools. AI is like putting everything in hyperspeed. He talks about treating cancer. It's a personalized idea. AI can look over your genes and say what the likelihood you'll develop cancer is, what kind of cancer you'll develop. How do we prevent it before you develop it? That's what AI is. It's nothing to be afraid of. It's machine learning where it puts together data that helps the doctor solve problems.
So you're talking to the audience out there, but you're also talking to the medical profession. A lot are sitting there in their lab coats now and saying, thank you, I got this. I've been doing this for 20 years. I don't need AI's help.
AI is not Big Brother. See, here's where the confusion comes in. AI is already being used in radiology to make diagnoses that doctors don't yet see. Mass General came up with one where it looks where lung cancer is going to develop before it even develops. Cardiology, way in advance of the cardiologist. Doctors learn to take the information that AI brings them and use it. Not be shy, not be defensive. It's like any other piece of equipment. And it learns from its mistakes and does more and more.
Do you want AI in the room as we speak, patient, doctor? Do you want AI in there overseeing you almost, if I can make a sports analogy, like the instant replay? The referee makes the call, but upstairs they're going to look back at the video. Are you okay with that?
Well, now you pushed it too far. This is, you and I discussed this before we came on, and I love the sports analogy. I don't really like AI as a legal document. I don't want Big Brother looking over my shoulder. I like the sanctity of the doctor-patient relationship. There's something private and special about that. I don't want AI telling me I got it wrong, but I want AI informing me on how to get it right.
And before we move on, how soon until this is commonplace?
It's now.
Right now.
You know what's so exciting about what the president said yesterday? He's talking about building big databases that gives AI the power we need right now to be in the doctor's office and in the research lab.
Yeah, energy is the issue. Okay, now let's talk about what also Donald Trump did through an executive order. WHO, World Health Organization, we are out. He says we're being ripped off. He doesn't like their conclusions. He feels like they're anti-American. And if you look at how much China has put in compared to how much we have put in, we've almost doubled it. Yet they seem to listen to China all the time.
Well, they definitely did that with the pandemic. China bought the world time, they said, and I pointed that out in early 2020.
Look at this. Look at how much we put in. Almost $1 billion. They're putting $203 million.
We put in 15% of WHO's budget so they can hide along with China, what's happening.
But
listen,
do we need
Brian,
this broad organization? Do we need it?
Brian, down at the scientist level, they're doing great work on HIV, on Ebola, on polio, on measles. But up at the top, where Tedros is, the head of the WHO, he was accused of genocide in Ethiopia. We have to clean house at WHO, and Trump is right to give them the stick and say, you got a year, because we're out in a year. You got a year to fix this mess if we're going to continue to give money to you. And why should we give money to them so they can not help us?
Listen, I hear you. It's rocking the science world, and let's see what Anthony Fauci comes out and what's he going to say. Thanks so much, Dr. Siegel. Exciting.
Great to see you.
All right. Meanwhile, I just got a quick announcement. Fox Nation will be streaming my show on stage at the Florida Theater, February 15th in Jacksonville. Go to briankilmeade.com. Also in St. Louis, March 22nd. Meanwhile, this story. Well, we have 2 more hours of Fox and Friends. Next hour, we lead with this bishop who seems as though she wants to get a message to the President of the United States. Also, Will Kane, Brandon Carr, and Tom Holman. Don't move.